And today I'm going to be quoting one of the most famous lines out of Shakespeare. It is the only passage from Shakespeare that I believe is resting on the moon right now, because when the lunar prospector landed hard on the moon couple of decades ago, it carried with it this quotation from Romeo and Juliet, and it was in memory of Gene Shoemaker. And here it is. It's from Romeo and Juliet, Act 3, Scene 3. Come, gentle knight. Come, loving, black-browed knight. Give me my Romeo, and when he shall die, take him and cut him in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. Thank you, Marty.
Oh,
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Last week we we offered a Misha Berach prayer for all of those who are suffering from COVID, and specifically the Rabbi and Lynn, and anyone else, not only in our community but the entire Tucson area. And it goes out to Arizona, the United States, and the rest of the countries in the world, and even down in Antarctica. So, Sue, if you would just kindly read the two paragraphs and for us.
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Amen.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, does anyone remember the exact verse we ended on last week? Are we on verse in Genesis 36, verse 20? Or is it before?
We were definitely through 12, and we were starting to read all those names, I think.
Okay, right. So then we're on 15?
Somewhere in the middle of all those names, I think.
Okay. I think we had read all of those, but we spoke mostly about Amalek and the Amalekites and some of the things related there. So we would be starting on verse 15. Verse 15. So if somebody would care to read, go ahead, David.
Okay, verse 15. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau, the sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn of Esau, the chief of Timon, the chief of Omar, the chief of Zepho, the chief of Kenaz, the chief of Korah, the chief of Gatam. We have a lot of chiefs here. The chief of Amalek. These are the chiefs that come of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Adah. And these are the sons of Ruel, Esau's son, the chief of Nahath, the chief of Zerah, the chief of Shema, the chief of Mitzah. These are the chiefs that come of Ruel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. And these are the sons of Obama. No, that's not right. Oholinama. I think Obama sounds a little easier, though. Esau's wife, the chief of Jush, the chief of Shalom, the chief of Korah. These are the chiefs that come of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, Esau's wife. These are the sons of Esau, and these are their chiefs. The same is Edom. And these are the sons.
Yeah, go ahead. Finish through verse 28.
Okay, thank you. These are the sons of Seir the Horite, the inhabitants of the land, Lotan and Shobal, and Zibeon and Anah, and Dishon and Ezer and Dishon. These are the chiefs that come of the Horites, the children of Seir in the land of Edom, and these and the children of Lotan were Hori and Hemam, and Lauren's sister was Timnah. And these are the children of Shobal, Alvan and Manabahath and Ebal, Shepo and Onam. And these are the children of Zibeon, Aya and Anna. This is Anna who found the hot springs in the wilderness as he fed the asses of Zibeon, his father. And these are the children of Anna, Dishon and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anna, and none of them got COVID. And I think that's as far as I want to go to.
Okay, that was a good one. Yes, Larry.
How does one become a chief or chieftain? Is it an inherited position? Is it going to the best in war, the one who has the most money? Any clues?
Well, we have to, I don't, yes, David.
I think it comes from the Electoral College, and they do an election every 4 years.
Only if it's certified.
Anyway, that was good. Any other ideas? I honestly do not know how that was achieved back then. And so if the rabbis know, that would be helpful. Yes, Rabbi?
Oh, I can't tell you how much I've missed all the joking and the repartee back and forth. Nasi is one who is exalted, one who's lifted up, literally. So the assumption is that there was some kind of a process, whether it was today we would say a vote, but the elders of the clan would point to someone and literally say, you're going to be the chief. It was not, to the best of my knowledge, it was not a genetic or a biological thing handed down. It was something that was quote unquote earned, or was an honorific title, rather than the head of the tribe, which was through the patrilineal format.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very helpful. Any other questions or comments?
Well, it's interesting that they list the chiefs, and then in verse 31 they start listing the kings. And
yes, we're going. That's right. That's right.
The order is evidently of some significance. And
this is something that sort of so far in the Jacob / Israel lineage, we haven't seen those words. As far as chief or king. Okay, which I think is interesting. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
I have a quick question from verse 16, and that is Korah. In the Psalms, it speaks of, this is a Psalms of the sons of Korah. What is that? Is this the same? Is this all interrelated or not?
No.
I didn't think so, but I just wanted to ask.
No. The Korah in the revolt against Moses, and then those of his descendants who came back into the fold, so to speak, they're all Israelites.
Right.
This is just a typical name from.
That's what I was thinking, but I just wanted to triple check there.
Right.
This has been an issue. We'll get to this in a little bit. This has been an issue where throughout the ages, a lot of names are repeated. And so as a result, it's hard to, when Ricky's and her timeline are available, we can see that, the differences that have been established. So but it can be very confusing. Yes. Yes, Lynn.
Yeah. So what do we know about the Horites? I'm not as familiar with them in the lists of the groups who have settled the land, the Perizzites and the Jebusites, and they're in, I guess it's line 20. These are the sons of Seir, the Horite, and then there's all these Horites. So.
Let me see if I can find something.
I don't know if there's if you're going to be able to find anything. My commentary says that there's a comment back to Genesis 14:6, but about Mount Hor is that's where Aaron dies and is buried. So it's a place, but I don't remember too many other times in the Torah text when they're referred to as a particular people.
Yes, Larry.
Alter has a commentary. The fourth unit of the chapter is a list of Horite inhabitants of Edom. The Horites, evidently the term was used interchangeably with Hittite, were the most probably the Horians, the people who penetrated into this area from Armenia sometime in the first half of the second millennium BCE. They seem to have largely assimilated into the local population, a process reflected in the fact, like everyone else in these lists, they have West Semitic names.
Thank you. Very, very good. Appreciate that. Any other discussion or comments? Okay, why don't we read on a little bit? Maybe someone else would like to read. If I don't see any other hands, excuse me. Yes, Michael.
Oh, can you tell me? I got in late. Where exactly are we?
We are Genesis 36.
Okay.
And we are going to begin on the verse 29.
Got it.
Okay. Oh, by the way, before we read on, Rabbi, did you want to say anything about the word ayah, A-I-A-H, or ayah?
Which rabbi are you asking? I don't remember.
Okay, either one. I have here that it suggests the meaning yamim or yamim is uncertain, and that it could be hot springs. Are there hot springs in the regions around the Arabian Peninsula and down towards Egypt? Because it would suggest volcanism.
There certainly are some. I don't recall any that relate to the name of Aya. Of course, some of them are known more by their Arabic names, which have been handed down through the generations. There's a hot springs in the north, not far from Beit Shemesh, not Beit Shemesh, Beit Shan, known as Sachne, which is that's the Arabic pronunciation, and the Israelis have just turned it into Gan HaShlosha, Garden of the Three, or Park of the Three. So, but Aya doesn't ring a bell necessarily.
Okay.
Yes, there are hot springs locations. However,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
In Tiberias, there's one that people still go to. They decide if they're making pilgrimage to Maimonides' grave or to the hot springs, which or to go swimming in the Kinneret, whatever they prefer to do. Right.
Interesting.
But there are in Hamad, in the north, in the Golan, there is a place, I don't remember the first word, but Hamad comes from the Ham and that, so it seems like they were there. I'm not sure that there were not some hot springs by the Dead Sea, that people go to that with the mud and so forth. And then in En Gedi, there are quite a bit of springs. I don't know if they're hot, but there are springs. Actually, it's a very beautiful green area because of springs there.
Okay.
I've been there. It's cold.
Okay. Okay.
I've splashed in there. It's cold.
Okay. Larry has Larry has had his hand up for some time now. Let me give the floor to him.
This translation follows E.A. Spice's plausible suggestion that a simple transposition of the first and second consonants of the word has occurred, and that the original reading was Mayim, water. Discovery of any water source in the wilderness would be enough to make it noteworthy for posterity.
Good, thank you.
Mayan is spring.
Except that's with an I. This is with an Aleph, I think, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here is with an Aleph? I don't know, I haven't seen them.
Larry, Spicer taught at University of Pennsylvania, biblical scholarship, and my Bible professor in rabbinic school did his PhD with Spicer at Pennsylvania. So we continue on the genealogy.
Yeah,
of Bible studies.
Very nice.
Right. That's why when we were discussing genealogy, I mentioned basically the educational genealogy.
Sure. I wanted to add something in here that the Anna, which is the daughter of Oholibama, and it's an interesting wordplay also. What Anna may be a wordplay on female donkey.
Yes.
And what Anna
Marty, give us the verse, please, so I can follow.
Oh, sure.
What verse 24, are you talking about?
Verse 24.
Right.
That says that Anna is a son. These are the sons of Zibeon, Aya and Anna.
Yes, and keep going on, and you will see.
And these are the children of Anna, Dishon and Oholibama, daughter of Anna. But Anna is still the father. No?
Well,
yeah, I think, but
okay,
Marty, you were starting to question the Oholibama or Oholibama, right? That name rather than Anna.
What were you, Lynn? What were you referring to?
I was referring to the fact you said that Anna was a daughter, and Anna is a son of Zibeon.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
I'm trying to figure out which daughter are you talking about. Aholibama, daughter of Anah?
Well, this is something, if you go to the word Anah, and what does that mean in Hebrew?
Responding.
One who answers.
One who answers.
Responds.
But what I have here, Anah may be a wordplay on female donkey. What Anah discovered was not hot springs, but the crossbreeding of animals. Yeah, so is there a, before I recognize Marsha, is there a Hebrew word? Remember, I have to go to the experts on Hebrew, but is there a Hebrew word that relates to this that would represent a word play? No?
Not that I can think of. I mean, the little commentary that I have here in Eitz Chaim says that this is one of those where the narrator's assumption is that the reader knows what happened at that place already. And so it doesn't have to be given in detail.
Okay. Okay. So it looks like, you know, well, I'll mention this before. Yes, Marsha.
This is just a little addition. He discovered the hot springs in the wilderness as he was tending his father's donkeys.
Very, very good. Well, thank you. Thank you.
We get an animal in there somehow.
Yeah.
Yes. I forget now, what is it, a horse and a mule, or is it a horse, you get a donkey, or is it a horse and a donkey and you get a mule? I don't remember.
The altar says mule.
A horse and a donkey gives a mule.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
The only thing I can think of in this particular passage comes to Balaam and the donkey answering the word Anah, that one who answers or one who responds. I thought of Balaam immediately. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Very good point. Very good point. So this will come up again later. We'll have another discussion of this, I suppose. Is a donkey fertile?
A donkey is fertile, but a mule is not.
The mule is not. That's correct. And as a result, we're going to come up with this later on in other books that we will be reading about, not necessarily crossbreeding, but not putting you know, your mules and your oxen together, and I mean donkeys and mules together. Donkeys and oxen together. I apologize. But the thing is that we're seeing some of the negative approaches to things that the other branch of the family is experimenting with and doing, and I think maybe we have to keep in mind some of these so that we understand some of the reasons why God doesn't want us to be influenced by these people, which will also come up again and again in the other books of Moses. Yes, Michael.
In relationship to these animals that are being discussed, when animals are working in tandem, doing labor, some sort of manual labor for the owners, it's unfair to one of the animals because they don't possess the same strength.
Right.
You see, and so that's why they don't pair them that way. They pair a horse with a horse, or a mule with a mule. when it comes to labor, because it would be unfair to one over the other, because they don't possess the same ability to perform.
Good point. Good point. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Later on, there is a guy that's named Hamor or Ben Hamor. I don't remember where. But what I wanted to mention is that all the animals that are mentioned in the Torah, we don't really know exactly what are they today. And it has been, you know, probably Larry's teachers and Rabbi Norman's teachers know more about it. But I asked the question in which, and it's a difficult one, because when we decide that behemoth is, I don't know, is a rhinoceros or it's an elephant, we don't know. We know some qualities about it, like in this case, that there is a herd. So I don't know if there are herds of donkeys or mules or whatever, but we assume that we know that animal. So I always question when we have those translations, if we know what are they talking about, or it's more important to know what he was doing. Yeah, he was shepherding the donkeys and then he found the water. But as far as, is it a mule or is it a donkey or is it a horse or is it something else? I think that we have to be very cautious comparing with what we know about animals.
Good point. Good point. Because the same discussion as you that you just made comes up when we discuss leprosy, the diagnosis of leprosy at that time versus the how we consider it in today's light. Because the way they describe it is very much like psoriasis. And so to label those people as having leprosy would have been something difficult. Yes, David.
Well, thank you. And to continue on your train of thought about bringing our Torah study up to the present, in one of Tevye's earliest songs in Fiddler on the Roof, he has that famous thing about the horse and the mule that turns into a big shouting match. It's one of the highlights of the play, I think, that I saw with my grandmother and my mom decades ago. And then Wendy and I saw the movie just a few months ago, and it still remains a very powerful, haunting story, Fiddler on the Roof.
Thank you. Very, very good. Very, very interesting. Any other comments? Well, let's read on, if we may. And I think we're going to read from verse 29. Any other readers? David, you're it.
Okay, here I go, verse 29. These are the chiefs that came of the Horites, the chief of Lotan, the chief of Shobal, the chief of Zibeon, the chief of Anah, the chief of Dishon, the chief of Ezer, the chief of Dishan. These are the chiefs that came of the Horites, according to their chiefs in the land of Seir. And these
can I jump in
are
for
the
a second?
Sure. Excuse me, David. Yes, Rabbi.
Yeah, okay. I just noticed, looking at the Hebrew, that and David read a translation of verse 29 that said that these are the chiefs, okay, or the chieftains. Actually, the Hebrew in biblical vocabulary means more, these are the troops.
Oh,
that's interesting.
Okay. And I just noticed that. I guess I'd have to go back into a lot of the verses and see if they use a different word for troop or for, this is translated as clans. We know that there's a different word for tribe, but this is the first, I see it going back all the way back to 15, that it's the same word that later on will be used for troops.
Interesting.
That's even more important.
Yeah.
This
Very interesting.
Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, I'm looking at Robert Alter's commentary on this. And he says aloof means clan, which Rabbi Norman suggested, but also that if we assume that an aloof is the head of an elef, a clan, and I've had lots and lots of discussions about what an elef is, because there were 600 elef that went out of Egypt.
1,000.
And now that's the modern name for 1,000, but it may not have been 1,000. And here's the first time I ever found evidence that an elef has a relationship to the word clan.
Interesting.
So I'm real fascinated.
Interesting. Marcia, did you have your hand up?
No, I was.
Okay.
It always said clan. That's my translation.
Got it.
Clan.
Okay. Yeah, there's different interpretations of that same word. Clan softens it, but if it also is more likely to be troops, that changes the entire picture of what these people are about. Because when you think in terms of not just families, not just clans, but chiefs and troops, and now kings are coming into, it suggests a different way of thinking in those people, that they may have been a little more hostile, a little more aggressive than other groups.
Or fearful.
Or fearful. Yes, it could have been defensive. Yes. Yes. Yes, Mary.
You're talking about troops, T-R-O-O-P. Is that what was mentioned?
Yes, like a division in the army.
Okay. First of all, it might not be with the Aleph, but with the Elef, which is 1,000.
Right.
Right.
Now,
that's what Lynn was saying.
That
right.
comes later on. I cannot remember if it was that God revenge, and it comes Alafim. The other thing is that I think that the researchers of language in the Torah coming back to today, that's why I like Eliezer ben Yehuda, that had to create words for what's going on. So if we have a chief in the military, in Tzahal, then how are we going to call him using a Hebrew word that perhaps was in the Torah? So the word aloof is, now I don't know the aloof mishneh, it's a, I
think it's a captain. Captain, I think.
Yeah, so it's a captain in the military. And in the militaries, every chief of a number of people has a different name. Like a corporal is the chief of 12 people, and so forth. So here I look alafim, more than aleph, and elef, and going to the modern Hebrew, I like to see that kind of, what shall I say? For example, what shall I call the word Microsoft or computer? So they're going to go to the Torah to find if there is something that can be worked into that.
Very interesting. I have a slightly different, we've mentioned a lot of this, but in my source, the Sforno edition of commentary, this is the third genealogy of Esau. This time each name is designated an Aleph, as we pointed out. The word recurs in Exodus, was pointed out. also in association with Edom. It is undoubtedly connected with Hebrew Aleph, which we have discussed, which signifies a social unit, a subdivision of a tribe, most likely a clan. The term was not very meaningful in the pre-monarchic period before the breakdown of the tribal organization. It is not certain whether Aleph is a variant of Aleph or means the chief of a clan. So he feels that clan seems to fit the context better. The names of the Alephim are identical with those of the previous list, except that there are now two Korahs, one a grandson and one appears as part of the lineage of Eliphaz, and the other a son as before. Also, Amalek is no longer in limbo, but is on a par with the other sons of Eliphaz, albeit in last place. The most likely explanation for the differences is that the present list reflects a political development in Edomite tribal history, deriving from a time when a section of the Korahites split off from the Oholibama group and attached itself to the Eliphaz Confederation, into which Amalek too was incorporated. So and I'm just reading it verbatim. So it's an interesting, series of events. But yes, Rabbi.
So I'll throw one more little wrench in it. Pastor Bruce maybe had caught this also. If you look at the Hebrew, and Mary, I'm not sure what her background is in the biblical grammar and whatever, but in the Masoretic text, the Hebrew letter Lamed of Aluf has a dot in it, okay? Called Dagesh, which means that it's either a combination word or there's a letter that's missing, probably a doubled letter. So there may have been originally two Lameds. One has dropped just because of the oral history, but the grammatical Masoretes put a dot in there to tell us that there was a letter there, which if excuse me, if that's the case, we're totally off. That the word may have something to do originally with alal, which is something with going back again to lifting up, and whatever, and so I don't have all of my sources in front of me to be able to look up all the etymologies, but I did notice that dot was there, which might lead to an entirely different understanding of how, whether all the tribes or all the clans were known by that title of Aluf, or whether only some of them, because of who the leader was or what their yichus, what their lineage, might have been, things like that. Now, excuse me, having said that, as you can tell, I'm going to have to beg out. One, because I'm losing my voice, and two, because I need to help take care of Lynn with something.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you for your insights.
Hopefully we'll be able to be together for the Parshat Shavua class on Monday morning. I'm planning on doing that.
Yes.
I'll let some of the other people do most of the talking.
Okay.
Okay.
Give
Good
our best
Shabbos,
to
everybody. Thanks.
Okay.
Feel better.
Feel better.
Feel good.
No.
Bye-bye.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Take care.
So yes, Pastor Bruce.
I just wanted to say about the dots, the connecting of the dots in Hebrew is what we do here in this study. That's what I feel like we're trying to do, is put what is in this dot, what is in this little thing here that makes it a different vowel, a different, those are the things that we really work on here. And to have that comment was from Rabbi was very good, because it really does say we have to study. We can't always know exactly but we can put into the text, and you're looking at all of the text together. That's the important part of
Right.
all this study, is looking at the entire text and connecting the dots, if you will. I just think that's an important, when he used that word, I thought, my goodness, that's really what studying is all about, is connecting the dots of the entire text to come together to, if you will, you know, theology, whatever you want to call it. But that's he just said a very important thing there. Yes. I think
this is going to come up in another 5-10 minutes. Again, the same issue. Okay. Yes, Larry.
Speaking of connecting the dots or other examples, we spoke about a captain in the troops. In the Roman army, there were legions of 100, and the centurion was the commander of these 100.
Right. Very good. Very good. So this is going to become today's discussion is going to be about the dots, because I was going to also bring it up with another word. With another word, and we'll come across that very soon. So, David, if you or someone else would like to read, go right ahead.
He's gone.
Oh, David is gone. Does somebody else have a?
I'll read.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Where are we? 29. These are the Horite chieftains: the chieftain Lotan, the chieftain Shobal, the chieftain Zibeon, the chieftain Anah, the chieftain Dishon, the chieftain Ezer. We did this already.
Yes.
The chieftain, I'm sorry. These 29. Are the Horite chieftains by 29. Their clans in the land of Seir. Then we're doing the kings. These are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the Israelites. And Bela, son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinhabah. And Bela died, and Joab, son of Zerah from Basra, reigned in his stead. And Joab died, and Husham from the land of the Temanite reigned in his stead. And Husham died, and Hadad, son of Bedad, reigned in his stead, he who struck down Midian on the steppe of Moab, and the name of his city was Avit. And Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his stead. And Samlah died, and Saul from Rehoboth on the river reigned in his stead. And Saul died. And Baal-Hanan, son of Achbor, reigned in his stead. And Baal-Hanan, son of Achbor, died, and Hadad reigned in his stead. And the name of his city was Pau, and the name of his wife was Mehetabel, daughter of Matred, daughter of Me-Zahab.
Why don't you go ahead and finish down to verse 43. Just keep reading. And yes, Marcia, was it a very important one?
No, it's important to just know something about relationships. This is from my women's commentary. The mention of this woman's mother and her maternal grandparents is unusually, especially since nothing further is known about her, or even less about her husband. Now, we rarely heard wife of, and this is not only the wife of, they talk about her parents, her mother and father also. So it's just a little diversion in our reading.
Some of this, I can just add to this, that many times we're going to read a name and we don't, the story behind that name has been lost because it was passed down in an oral tradition. And the story around the name is lost. We've discussed that before. And time and again, we will see that. And there may have been some very important things related to that individual, but it unfortunately has been lost from history because because that story was forgotten, but the name was remembered. So it's something that may also dovetail into what you were saying. Lynn, if any other discussion at this point? Lynn, if you would read to the end of verse 43.
Okay. And these are the names of the chieftains of Esau by their clans and places, name by name. The chieftain of Timnah, the chieftain Alvah, the chieftain Jephthah, the chieftain of Aholibama, the chieftain Elah, the chieftain Pinon, the chieftain Kenaz, the chieftain Teman, the chieftain Mibzar, the chieftain Magdiel, the chieftain Iram. These are the chieftains of Edom by their settlements in the land of their holdings. That is Esau, father of Edom.
Very good. Any other comments? Well, I have one, because we always read the English translation of Saul. But Mary, if the, Rabbi Mary, if the dot on the shin is on the left, what is the pronunciation? I think you're muted, Mary. No, you're not, but we're not hearing it.
S.
Okay. And if it's on the right side?
If you know any Hebrew and you know the words yamin was small. Yamin is right and small is left.
Okay.
So our clue is, if it's on the left, is S.
Okay.
If it's on the right, it's like Shema.
Right. So
never mind. On the left is S.
So when we look at this, when we look at the word that has been translated as Saul, maybe it should be Shaul.
Is the Hebrew, is it
what verse
Shaul?
Is that?
Yeah.
Lynn, what verse are you talking about?
Let me
go back to like 38 or 30. Yeah, it's easier in 38.
So let me just double check here. I forget which. 37. 37.
It's also in 38.
And 38, right.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's
so again,
Samla. Is Samla. And if you go one step down, just one step down in 28, it says Shaul, the name of Saul, the first king of Israel, is Shaul, and you can see that the dot is on the right.
Correct.
So the first one is Samla. Now, in Hebrew, the word Simla means dress, a dress.
Okay. Any idea why the discrepancy in the translation of the, just moving a dot? This is the same discussion that we just had a few minutes ago. Is it because a word sounds too much like another word?
No. These two dots are completely different.
They are different.
No, it's not like what Rabbi Norman was mentioning, the dot in the center of a letter.
That's correct.
Those are called dagesh. And they have grammatical reasons that I'm not going to go into. In the shin of Shema, that just shows how to pronounce it. You have the same letter. How shall I pronounce it? If there is a dot on the right, it's sh. If there is a dot on the left, is s. Now, let's remember that this was oral tradition. So when it was written, they say, okay, what shall I call this? I want to make sure that the people say it right. They say sa and not sha. Although, if you know the letters of Hebrew, there is another S. Does anyone know the other S?
Samach.
Samach.
Samach, okay.
The round letter is also right. S. So this could have been written sa with a shin or sa with the samach. But shin with a point on the left, the letter is S. And when we have a point inside the letter, is what Norman said, it's because sometimes one letter fell, or, I'm sorry, I drive you crazy, but the vowel before that letter, the vowels are divided into two groups. So it might be that it's from this group, therefore there is a dot. But this dot, guys, is just pronunciation.
Right.
Sa or sha, that's it.
Okay. Any other comments about dots? Candy dots? We can all remember those. Did someone else have their hand up? Okay. Oh, yes, Bruce.
I just wanted to say, I don't know how many people have been to the current Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. I have been there twice, and it's interesting with all these names. Of all the names that are here, I only ran into one person who had one of these names. And I just found it to be very interesting. And I'm good friends with one of these people to this day, even on Facebook, who wrote a book called Game, Gilead, Ammon, Moab, and Edom. It was a very interesting book. And anyway, I just found it to be interesting that out of all these names that are listed here, the only person's name that I ran across modern-wise is Omar. That's all.
Yes.
That's the only one. As far as a name for the person, I haven't run into anybody else's name over there. And like I said, I've been there twice and been with a lot of different kinds of people there. And Omar is the only one that is I've be friends with. So names are interesting, and some people are named back from way back when, and that's the only one that I can find in my own friendship list of visiting there twice. So I just thought that was interesting. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, thank you.
So you didn't meet some women, because the name Ayah, those are modern Hebrew. What I find interesting is the modern Hebrew don't mind calling names that are descendants of Esav or Esau and not from Israel. But there is Gilad. No, I understood that out of these names, you didn't meet any modern names in.
Right. The closest thing for the women was Aisha.
No.
Several Aishas that I have met. Aisha.
No. Ayah and Anat and Abigail and several of these names. And Ayah is in this area that we found.
That was just with Jordan.
But it might be that in the group that you found, now Omar is also an Arabic name.
Yeah, that's probably where it came from. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Yes, Larry.
Okay, back to Alta. When Lynn read from basically 30 to 43, Alta breaks it up 31 to 39. The fifth unit of the chapter is a list of the kings of Edom. They do not constitute a dynasty because none of the successors to the throne is the son of his predecessor, whereas 40 to 43 is the sixth and concluding list of the collection. It's another record of the chieftains descended from Esau. Most of these names are different and the list may reflect a collection of archival materials stemming from disparate sources. This sort of stitching together of different testimonies would be in keeping with ancient editorial practices. So there are different, we've gone through 6 different lists of names.
Very good. This is the last time we're going to read about Esau. But there's no mention of his death. Is there anyone else that we've discussed in the preceding weeks that there's no mention of their death? Go back a generation from Esau. Where is it mentioned that Rebecca died? Anyone? I know it's a trick question. So here are 2 people that their names are just not mentioned, that they died. Does that suggest anything to anyone? Yes. Yes, David.
It does. I believe it does mention that Rebecca gets older.
Correct.
But it does not, but you're right that it does not mention that she actually passes away. And maybe they're still around. Maybe we could email them.
I just find those interesting. I haven't found any commentary as to why those names there's no mention of their deaths. But other people, yes, it is mentioned. So that's why I just find it interesting. So yes, yeah. Pastor Bruce.
As in Moses, when you think about this in the long term of things with Rebecca, we have Rachel's tomb near Bethlehem. We have, lots of people's places of burial and so forth and so on. Moses, no. Esau, no.
That's
Rebecca,
right.
no. And it could be, just in my own thinking. This is me thinking, not any commentary thinking. It could be that God intended them not to be enshrined in some way, shape, or form at a specific spot. And again, that's just my thinking. I don't have any other people telling me that. I just think maybe there's a reason why certain places where you go to a cemetery or you go do something, maybe there's a certain reason why Moses, Rebecca, Esau were not posted in a place like that for a reason, but I don't really know. I have no idea. It's something I thought of.
It's a good thought. Rabbi Miri and then David.
I want to mention, and Gail and Michael perhaps, and Sue and Marsha remember that the group that when we were studying Bruce, the people were saying, since in Judaism we don't have superheroes or people that we
worship,
that we connect as
that
we worship.
Right.
Yeah, we don't have saints and we don't have worshiping of human beings. So the group was saying, well, with Moshe, we didn't want that there would be a place in which people will start coming and praying for that person.
Right.
And that's why we said the burial of Moshe is unknown.
Right.
Now, regarding Rivka, I don't know. I really don't know where she was buried. But I'm just quoting a large group of people that thought about it, and I thought that it's a nice explanation.
Okay, David first, and then Michael.
Well, pursuant to what Pastor Bruce had said about Moshe, I don't remember I don't remember where, but I do have a memory of reading somewhere that Moses died on Mount Nebo. But I wonder if it actually says that in Deuteronomy or not.
He just goes up the mountain, well, up the mount, right? Yeah, yes, Pastor. Well, Pastor
Michael. Michael
okay,
first.
Michael. Let me, and then Pastor Bruce, then Gail.
Okay, in regards to what Rabbi Mary was saying, I could say this, which is interesting. A week before Rosh Hashanah, Jews gather usually at the cemeteries to say prayers over loved ones, parents in particular, say prayers over the grave. Now, there is some controversy about that in the Orthodox and the conservative, because they're afraid, the rabbis are afraid that you will be praying to the dead body instead of to God, making those prayers. So there's some controversy about that. And I couldn't help but mention after what Rabbi Mary was saying.
Okay, well, thank you. Then before, David, you had your hand up also. And then
Pastor Bruce.
Was it Pastor Bruce or Gail? I forget. Thank you.
Pastor Bruce.
You. Okay.
And Gail. Just two things. One, if you happen to be Catholic, and I don't know how many people were ever Catholic in this group, they still do what's called the veneration of the saints. That's not something that I practice at all, just so you'll know. I just want to make sure you know that. And then second of all, I've been to the top of Mount Nebo. There is certainly, looking out over the promised land, that was a very momentous moment for me in that particular moment. I felt, I don't know, I felt connected to my Jewish roots for sure, my Hebrew roots, if you will. At that time, I taught from Torah at that moment to the group I was leading, and it was very, very meaningful to me. Now, the monument was the big serpent thing that's on the top of Mount Nebo, if you've ever been there. And I don't know how many people have been there, but there's a big, huge, what's there is the tall pole with the serpent in the wilderness thing. That's what's up there. And so that's what is the remembrance of Moshe at that particular place. It's not something to be worshipped at all. It's just a statue of a marker of, here's the top of Mount Nebo, and this is somewhere where he could have been standing, kind of idea. But I don't know. There was just something about being there and teaching from Torah on that passage that was very meaningful to me.
Yeah,
and again, it wasn't. I mean, it was spiritual, but I don't think it certainly wasn't worshiping Moses.
No, I understand.
It wasn't that for me at all. So I just wanted to it was a neat experience for me, and I loved it. And it was just a question I had. Why wasn't God must have had a reason for that. I think too, Yeah. So I agree.
Gail, you had your hand up, and then back to David.
Mary, you were talking about there are no saints, but Rachel's tomb, the Orthodox, and I've been there actually. I've seen it. It's on the road to Bethlehem, as I recall, right? Rachel's tomb?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's a revered place. Also, David's tomb, excuse me, that's another place. So we do have some locations where we identify with our patriarchs, but no saints.
Okay, I'm going to let David and then Rabbi Mary.
Yeah, I did find there seems to be a reference in Deuteronomy 34 that Moses died in Moab. And there's something there, although I'm not actually certain of the precise quote, Deuteronomy 34. But I don't know. I think I kind of wish I were there with you, Pastor Bruce, up at the top of Mount Nebo. It might have been a lot of fun. And of course, we wouldn't, if we I agree with you that there's no way we would want to commemorate that through worship, because Moses would have been very angry, because it would have broken one of the commandments if we tried to do that.
That's right.
There you go. That's right.
Very good point.
Yes.
Very good point.
Mary.
Rabbi Mary, and then Lynn. And
well,
okay,
Gail, you are right in a sense that, first of all, for Kever Rachel, the tomb of Rachel, there is not a worship of Rachel, of Rachel.
Right.
Those that believe women come there to pray for fertility.
Right.
Because Rachel had problems with pregnancy. And there is Bar Yochai, a place in the north. And Bar Yochai was a guy that, never mind, it wasn't in the Torah. But there are groups of people, it's used to be only Sephardic, Mizrahi, but now very religious, that not just come to his tomb, and so it's later, it's not Tanakh.
Right.
That come to the tomb and they have fires. And at that time, if you know, the very Orthodox people do not cut the hair of their children, the boys, right, until they are 3 years old.
Right.
So what they do there is that they cut the hair of the kids and they throw it in the fire. Now, for my tradition and background in the way of including reform and renewal and conservative, there is something that's pagan into those things, that it's not the regular Judaism. And it moved further when the Lubavitcher rabbi died. Oy vey, what went on there, it was a worship. And my rabbi, I'll remember his name, he said, that's not Judaism. Because in Judaism, the issue of worshiping a man, a person, right, because he was a Messiah or whatever you say, it's not Judaism. And I'm talking about someone who wasn't renewal and it's not New Age. He was from London, conservative tradition and so forth. So in this topic, we have problems. And what Rabbi Bruce said, he stood there because God told him, darling, you're not going in. Stand there and look, because that's the most that you're going to get. And he went probably to Eival because, as you say, it's a very high place and you could see the entire land. Gail, you're right in the sense of things that happen. And I would put money on the fact that secular Jews, Reform, Conservative, all those traditions don't go to the tomb of Rachel. And the tomb of David, I don't know if we know where the tomb of David, what we have is the Tower of David on the walls. And I don't know, they keep excavating and finding so much stuff that I don't know. But it's really something that in this group, I think we have to remember the issue of worshiping a burial or a person is
right.
Not.
It's not done, yes. Lynn, you and Gail, did you have your hand up again?
No. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Lynn, you're on.
I was just going to read from Deuteronomy the words of the Torah, so
Okay,
that
please.
rather than summarizing them, to actually hear the words. So I'll just leave out some of the description. And Moses went up from the steppes of Moab to Mount Nebo to the top of Pisgah, which faces Jericho. And the Lord let him see all the land from the Gilead as far as Dan, and all Naphtali, etc., etc. So it's a description of what he sees. And the Lord said to him, "This is the land that I swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, saying, to your seed I will give it. I have let you see with your own eyes, but you shall not cross over there." And Moses, the Lord's servant, died there in the land of Moab by the word of the Lord. And he was buried in the glen in the land of Moab, opposite Bet Peor. And no man has known his burial place to this day.
Very good.
That says
Very
right
good.
in
Thank
the
you.
Torah.
I was trying.
Yes.
Yeah.
That no one
I was
knows
looking
it.
for it, Lynn. Thank you. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah. Any other comments? Yes.
Just
Please,
real
Gail.
quickly, I was thinking what fun it would be when this virus is gone for this group to go to Israel together and visit some of these places that we've
Oh,
got.
yes.
Wouldn't
That may
fun?
be,
Yeah.
I think that would be excellent. Some of the rabbis in Tucson offer trips, and
No,
we
we've got
may be
Miriam,
able to,
we've got our own
and you
rabbi.
do too. That's
Pastor Bruce.
Pastor Bruce.
Yes, that
that's
would be
right.
wonderful.
Excellent
Yeah.
suggestion.
I'm ready.
Norm has been wanting to take us to Israel
Oh, yeah.
since before we even started.
That's right.
And Miri can
Well, I have a ticket. I have a ticket to fly to Israel in October. Hopefully, I'll have my 2 shots at that time. And guys, if you look in American Airlines, this is a commercial, $800 round trip from Tucson to Tel Aviv.
really.
That's very reasonable.
It's amazing. It's us.
Well, and to bring us up to present day, I could take you to where I lived in Israel. There's my little town up on top of the mountain.
That would be really nice.
Yeah, I'd love to see it again. I haven't been there in, long
That
time.
would be so exciting.
Yeah.
I can pack in a week. I can pack overnight.
Oh, me too. All I need is 2 changes of clothes. I'm ready to go.
So we have it. Yes, Larry.
Today's New York Times article on Israel, the most vaccines per capita in the
Yes.
world.
Yes,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes.
Did you also read that they have found a new possible treatment for COVID?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Israelis.
Yeah,
Yes.
that could change things around overnight
Yes.
if it works out the way we hope it does. Yes, Rabbi Mary, and then Marcia.
Well, Larry, I want to disappoint you because I was bragging around and said, ooh, 30% of the population in Israel got the shot. And I was so proud. Well, I got a message from my friend Bila, and she said, in Hadassah, Yerushalayim, they don't have enough space in ICUs and ventilators, and they have to transfer people around. And one of the most difficult issues there is the Orthodox in the yeshivas, that they're not willing to stop going to funerals. She sent me a picture, and those, and when the police comes, they beat up the police. So we have these 2 things going at the same time. And I found it so sad.
It is sad. It is sad.
Aren't they having the same issue with Orthodox in New York?
Yes.
Yes.
They had a wedding, an Orthodox wedding of 7,000 people in an Orthodox temple, and they were fined $15,000 by the governor.
It's just it just is so against what I have learned. And I think most people understand this, and it's unfortunate. I want to acknowledge Marcia. She's had her hand up for some time.
Marcia.
Thank you.
Marcia.
I have a grandson who's studying there in his gap year before they go to college. And it's in a rather orthodox seminary that he is at. And he was just 18 and he got the shot already. Everybody over 18 in that community has it. But they've had so many over these last 6 months since he's been there of lockdowns in that place.
Yes.
Because they're just cautious, and the kids can't be crazy because they don't go out. They're not allowed off the grounds when these lockdowns happen.
Okay.
Just one last thing, Marty.
Yes.
On the news yesterday, they were showing a grocery store in Naples, Florida. Okay? All Caucasian, no Orthodox, no Jews, you know, it was just your white people. And big grocery store, like Safeway. Not one person had on a mask, not the help, and none of the customers. And there must have been, 150 people wandering around, and they're talking and laughing. Not one single mask. Then they interviewed the owner of the grocery store, and he said this whole thing is a hox. 400,000 people have not died.
There, unfortunately, you're going to find this. These people just will never understand. And, years ago, they used to be weeded out by the diseases. Okay, unfortunately, today we do everything we can to protect everyone. And so they unfortunately survive and carry that into that attitude into the rest of society.
Yeah, well, they're just super spreader events, what that grocery store is. It's horrible.
I would never go there. It doesn't matter.
No, I wouldn't walk in that door. You couldn't pay me.
No one would. Even with a mask and even with the vaccine, because as we've said, nothing is 100%. Anyway, any other discussion before we about Esau or Rebecca or anyone else that we wanted to mention? Okay, we will not be coming back to them, but some of the names that have been mentioned, we will, in Esau's line, we will come across again, and and in the other books of Moses. Well, now we're going to return to Jacob, I've been trying. Yes, we have plenty of time to start going into this discussion about Jacob, where he has settled, and what is going on at that time. So, if somebody would like to start reading, we are in Genesis 37, verse 1.
I'll read.
Okay, thank you, Gail.
And Jacob lived in the land of his father's residences, in the land of Canaan. And these are the records of Jacob. Joseph, at 17 years old, had been tending the sheep of his brothers. And he was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. And Israel had loved Joseph most of all his children because he was a son of old age to him. And he made him a coat of many colors. And his brothers saw that their father loved him most of all his brothers, and they hated him, and they were not able to speak a greeting to him.
Okay, let's stop here. And any comments or questions or discussion? Yes, David?
Yeah, thanks. I just before that, the Sephardic Haftorah for the portion that we had just concluded was from Obadiah. And I'd like to just add that quote because I found it particularly beautiful. And it says, in the captivity of the host of the children of Israel that are among the Canaanites, even unto Zarephath, and the captivity of Jerusalem that is in Sepharad shall possess the cities of the south, and Savior shall come up on Mount Zion to judge the mount of Esau, and the kingdom shall be the Lord's. I just thought that was very touching and a nice way to end the previous portion.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Pastor Bruce.
I appreciate the Haftarah portion there too. I think that's something that, is always good to bring in if it's shared a little bit there with when we finish a chapter of some kind. I just found this extremely interesting that, it starts talking about Jacob and then immediately goes to, Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really a lot more about it says Jacob, but it really is talking a lot more about Joseph. And, it's kind of moving Jacob. Okay, we're going to talk more about this guy now, and again, when you look at this, Rabbi Miri, help me out for sure, but isn't this the longest, other than Moses, isn't this the longest talking about one person in the entire Torah?
In Genesis.
Well, even beyond that, this is, I won't swear, the only story that has a beginning and a middle and an end. So it's, yes, and he is the protagonist. He is in the center of this story. Everything else is just, around him, but he is the hero and it's about him. And before I said, for the rabbis in the Torah, it doesn't matter, first, second, beyond, the order is not something. But here we have a story as we modern people know it. And Yosef is the hero, the protagonist of the story.
So yeah, it was just something very interesting to me that, the chapter starts about talking, oh, here's Jacob. Oh, nope. Let's go to Joseph. It's like so abrupt, so abrupt.
Yep.
And I just found that to be very interesting that it was so abrupt. And then I was confirming that it's the longest single story about an individual other than Moses in the Torah.
Mary, I have a question about the coat of many colors.
Can I just say,
before we get to that,
before you go on,
let's talk a little bit about this line of thinking, because there are some other very interesting aspects to this so far. Yes, Lynn.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to run. I didn't realize how long your session was, and I didn't block out enough time. So hope to see you again.
Yes, please.
Let's come back.
Come back, yes.
Great to be here.
One of the things that I wanted to bring up, it was mentioned about the Joseph story being the longest story and that we've come across so far. But one of the things that if we look carefully at Jacob's life, there are a number of different stories that are interrupted. Not only is his life interrupted, that he has to flee to his uncle Laban. Not only does it's interrupted again by his interactions with Esau. Okay, not only is it interrupted by the rape of Dinah. Not only is it interrupted by by again coming back. It mentions the tribes, the names of the different tribes, and who they're related to, and it jumps again over to Esau. And now we have a one verse sentence, okay, about Jacob, and it jumps again into the story of Joseph. What is it about? So what is it about Jacob that has to be, his life has to be interrupted so many times? I left out a whole bunch of other things. Okay, Reuben going to bed with his, with Bilhah. I mean, we have to start. What's going on here? I'm going to take the other side of the coin. Poor Jacob is getting short shrift. He's going through a miserable succession of tragedies and missteps, and we never say anything about that. We always say, oh, he's our patriarch, and he did this and he did that, and we're named after him with Israel and all that. But this poor guy, he's going through a very tragic life. It's interrupted constantly. Any thoughts about that? So we've spent an awful lot of time on Jacob and his family. And and could it be that there has to be another break in the Jacob story, because it's going to come up again after the family is reunited? So I want people to start thinking about that, because we're going to, if they want to discuss a little bit of it now, but we're going to come back to that later. I think it's a very important issue. Yes, David.
Yeah, it's actually Wendy.
Actually, it's me.
Wendy.
Having been around, I'm going to say, ever since I met David, the people that I meet through David are more than just people. They're all like top in their field. And what happens is, like, for example, when we were doing, the observing runs with David, Carolyn, and me after Jean had passed away, when we would be in the observatory and there'd be a lull or it'd be absolutely freezing out there, and Carolyn and I would be dancing around the observatory, I said, no one will ever remember that we were doing something like this. And no one ever thinks like that, oh, the great astronomers only do what they do, for example, and then they lock themselves in a closet. Well, maybe what we don't hear in the Bible is that maybe Jacob was not a very nice man. He may have had a long following. He may have had, a lot of sons who have, if they didn't like Joseph, then maybe they're taking a role modeling from him. That's my thought, that he may not be the wonderful person that the Bible tells us he is. There you go.
Well, that is a very interesting aspect of it. Yes, Gail.
Well, he's setting up a whole situation here by loving one son over the others. I mean,
yes.
It's his fault that this story turns out, continues on the way it does, because he's favoring one child. I don't think he's all that wonderful, personally.
Well, this is the thing that we say, and also we've set the stage a few weeks ago by saying what seems to be good turns out to be bad, and what seems to be bad turns out to be good. Keep that in mind as we start reading, as we go into all of these things. Yeah, Marcia, were you raising your hand? You're muted, Marcia. Okay,
Sorry.
Bev.
I just wanted to let you know that Bev was raising her hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that, and I apologize. Bev, go ahead.
I did unmute. I was just going to say that Anita Grace Ferrar has been making some comments, and I thought they were very good under chat, and especially one that she made the comment, could it be that God uses Jacob's life as an example for how we are to remain strong in knowing God is with us?
Yes, Grace, I know you like to be silenced and like that, but would you be able to mention a few things that were in your mind when you wrote that?
I believe she is having problems with her.
Okay, okay. Because that's one of the, I think, one of the messages Grace has touched upon it. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Grace has touched upon a very important message. Do you remember a couple of years back, we went over a song, okay, and we went over and we read it in class, okay, and the song is by another Cohen, Leonard Cohen, that despite all kinds of tragedy, and all the things we goof up in doing, God is always there. The name of the song is Hallelujah. And I mention this because if you think of Jacob's life of tragedy, I don't want to spoil the ending by commenting on the ending of his life, but it moves from one type of person to another, having experienced tragedy. And we'll go over this more. And I think Grace touched on something that's very important, that despite all of the turmoil around us, God is still there. God is still with us. And we may not, and I think we can get very caught up in our current events and forget about the fact of what is a higher aspect. And I'm just going to make that comment because I think it's a very important issue in the life of Jacob. And I think, although yes, it's a continuous story about Joseph, Jacob's life has covered a long time so far, many, many weeks in our discussions. And it's going to come, and I think it's going to come back to haunt us.
Do you really think that Jacob's life was any more tragic than some other people in the Bible?
No, okay. But it's just an example. Yeah. It's just one life. Yeah. And because you can cite many others that have had tragedy, but there's always something that comes out of that tragedy.
Well, I mean, you could say that about any situation.
As we move closer and closer to modern history, the stories are remembered more and there's more detail. We will learn more about Moses and spend much more time on Moses because he's much more recent. This is his history. Okay, Maria's had her hand up and then Michael.
I regard what you call tragedies, I regard that as stations, maybe stations of the cross, but stations in which he encounters God, for good and for bad. When he steals from Esau, when he meets God, when he struggles with God, when he's, excuse me the expression, screwed up by Laban, a lot of things. And the way that I would look at in a literary manner is that he is a conduit to move the story forward. And then we see Joseph, who's going to move the story forward to us being in Egypt. But with Jacob, it's very interesting what you're saying. And again, the qualities that he carries is they're human.
That's right.
They are, you know, bad stuff happens, but he has encounters with the divine. And he changed his name from Jacob to Israel. And today we are Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. It took us the story of his struggle. And for me, I mentioned before, the fact that he struggled with God is what I do. So for me, he is a very inspiring person at that moment.
Oh, okay. Wait, before Sue, Michael had his hand up, and then Sue.
Okay, what I'm thinking about, I want to think back to what Pastor Bruce had mentioned about connecting the dots. And I want to bring this up that indirectly, this would be very, very good discussion when the discussion of the 10 Commandments are going to be talked about, because there are dynamics that are going on here that will create a very fascinating discussion concerning the 10 Commandments and what we're talking about now.
I agree 100%. That's right.
Very good.
Very good. You're on.
Okay. I was just going to say my view of the Jacob story is very much like Rabbi Miri's. I think that I don't see his life as tragic at all. I see it as transformational. It is the ability over a series of challenges to change to something else, come through all of that as a very different, purged, if you will, individual who now has a very different lens through which to look at life, to look at his community. And he represents, I think, man in general, and the struggles that we may be subject to over a lifetime. Trickery to some degree. It's all a question of degree. To what degree does he commit some of his errors and sins? And then he rises above it, sort of like a rough stone in a rough ocean being hewn by the waves over time and smoothing out.
Very good.
That's how I see Jacob.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes, Pastor Bruce, and thank you for the thumbs up. Grace, thank you.
I posted on Facebook this morning just something that I thought was very powerful that, Sue, you just said it. Transformation happens on the other side of surrender. And what did Jacob do in the wrestling match?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What did he do in the wrestling match? He let God do what he wanted to do, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so I put that on my Facebook page because I didn't know we were going to get to this today, but I just thought, isn't that really cool that happened this morning? But Rabbi Miri, I have a question. In original Hebrew, there is no such word as coincidence. Is that correct?
As what?
In original Hebrew, there is no such word as coincidence.
Coincidence. Well, in the modern one is mikriyut.
But in
mikre is mikriyut, because mikre is an event, and mikriyut is an event that just happened. So I would say that that's the closest, but I cannot.
But original Hebrew, I don't think has it. I don't think I've been trying to figure out if original Hebrew in the Torah and Tanakh has coincidence. I don't think it does. Modern Hebrew, yes.
No, it doesn't. So, everything has a reason.
There's that's
so
correct.
I change the word frequently, and this is another Pastor Bruce thing. I changed the word from coincidence now. I don't really use it because I don't like it. I change it to Godcidence.
Okay, good way. Yeah.
For what it's worth, if you ever want to use
it. And that would fit the mindset. That would fit the mindset of that time. Yes. Yes. So it's
and you know what? When we say the pandemic is going to end, and then the answer will be God willing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's a very good point. So what we've been seeing are examples. By the way, we never have. I'll shut up for a second. Go ahead, Gail.
I just wanted to say, I think Jacob's life is more a matter of learning from his mistakes.
Very good.
Rather than a life of tragedy. I think what Sue said, transformational is more appropriate by far.
She's the word shrift around here. and she really gets the right word out. But one of the things that I think is important in the life of Jacob is that we discussed this transformation before because of his silence that is misinterpreted by Reuben. His silence with the the story of the rape of Dinah is misinterpreted by Reuben. We took both sides of we've been talking about two ways of looking at Jacob. Was he too self-centered in his silence, or was he, and what he says, or is he still thinking about it? And the silence that keeps coming up in answer to all of these questions is now opening a door to multiple interpretations. So yes, his character is transforming, and now we're going to be confronted with a buildup of emotion on the part of Jacob, and we will soon see something that comes about as another, as I put it, tragedy that he has to ponder for a very long time. So some comments I think, Gail, you wanted to comment about the coat.
Yeah, what I understand is there really is no interpretation of that word in Hebrew, of coat of many colors. I may be wrong, but that's what one of the comments that I have read said, that there really is they're not sure exactly what the coat of many colors is. Now, I may be wrong, but that's what I read. Gary, you want to look at that?
There is certain, yes, Mary.
Right.
Mary, I think you're
muted.
The
word that says in Hebrew is ktonet pasil. It's a clothing with stripes. That's all it says. It doesn't say many colors or so forth.
That's right. So, it has been interpreted in some other languages as little patches. And then of course you have what was it on Broadway? This Joseph and his coat of many colors. Yeah. So there's a lot said about this. Yes, Marcia.
Is that related in any way or form about the talit who has stripes on it?
Yes,
it's a covering with stripes.
I think it is.
Interesting.
Could be. And in the Orthodox Torah, the translation says a fine woolen tunic.
Which means?
A fine woolen tunic.
Tunic.
Right.
Tunic.
It doesn't say colors or shapes or anything. No.
No. In Hebrew, it says stripes.
Stripes. And one of the comments that you have to think about, is that this is a similar discussion about rainbow, color, a covering We're going to have this discussion again with regard to the tabernacle. That it's that these are, whether we call it special or what, this is another thread that I wanted to point out, that somehow we don't get it all. The animal, the skin that is supposed to exist in at the time of the building of the temple, we don't know what that animal was. Here, we don't know what all of the tunics, what we have all kinds of interpretations of what the tunic might have looked like. And then we have the rainbow story from Noah. Was it an actual rainbow? Or was it more insight, different ways of looking at things for a new story to begin? I don't know. So I just want to mention, yes, Larry.
Now I'm in Friedman, coat of many colors. We have no idea what the Hebrew means, so I have retained the traditional many colors. Some have tried to derive something about its meaning from the story of Tamar, who is wearing one when her brother Amnon rapes her. But this is difficult because the two...
Larry, you just faded. You just became muted for some reason. Larry, you're muted.
I don't think he knows.
Larry, can you hear us? Okay, you're muted.
Okay.
There you go.
Now we can hear you.
It cut out all of a sudden.
Yeah. Okay. Coat of many colors. This is from Friedman. Some have tried to derive something about its meaning from the story of Tamar, who is wearing one when her brother Amnon rapes her. But this is difficult because the two stories appear to be intentionally connected. It is hardly coincidental that the two people who wear a coat of many colors in the Bible are both victims of violence by their brothers, and that both coats are torn. The significance of the coat, therefore, is a symbol of injustice among siblings. This significance is doubled when we see the fate of the coat. So,
very good point.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the mute.
Oh, it's okay. David.
Yeah, I think in studying that particular verse, it reminds me when I was growing up at the Shar Shemayim in Montreal, they had a children's play that was very, very popular and famous. Joseph and his amazing multicolored dream coat. Mm-hmm. And really took off in all kinds of interpretations about that one verse. Wonderful story. Yeah.
Yes. Good point. Yeah. Yes, Rabbi Mary.
Well, I'm not going to tell the story. Most of you know the story of Yosef, and it's Yosef. But what I want to say is the common thread of the entire story is about clothing. From this moment and the continuation, remember it's about clothing.
Would you want?
And she used the word thread. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good pun.
Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to say, how many people feel like Rachel's death had something to do with all this issues with Joseph?
Well, I came across something with that.
Okay, yeah, I'm just asking a question because I don't really know, but I just wondered if that was a problem, with everybody because it was a different mother and all that. I don't know.
And this comes from 2 Samuel, verse 13, chapter 13, verse 18. The same term for the ornamental tunic signifies special distinction. Perhaps it marked those who did not have to work. That's the author's supposition. Jacob's affection for Joseph most likely sprang from his love for Rachel, whose firstborn he was. Later, after Joseph's presumed death, Jacob's preference is transformed to Benjamin, Rachel's second son. So but who else also is wrapped in clothing or a cloth? Also takes place in Egypt.
Moses.
Say it.
Moses.
That's right. So a tunic. It can also be some cloth. Maybe it was a prayer shawl. I don't know. But all I can say is that it is something that is a thread that Miri is talking about. and Marsha making talit knows the threads.
Pastor Bruce, to your comment, if she died after Yosef, there is a commentary on that. When she heard what happened to him, that he's thrown into the pit and so forth. So she dies. And it's a very parallel story to Sarah. Sarah, it says she dies when she hears the story of her husband taking the son and trying to sacrifice him. And they immediately, when they come back, immediately Sarah dies. So there is that connection with the son, and we know how long Sarah waited for Yitzhak. So I see that parallel, that the two mothers get completely heartbroken from the event.
Interesting.
I was going to bring in another sidebar. But one of the things that I find interesting dealing with Rebecca, if we go all the way back to Genesis 35, verse 8, we find that Rebecca's nurse died, Deborah, the first Deborah we encounter in Scripture.
Right.
And that they buried her, and there's talk in the commentaries about how tragic this event was, and all the weeping of the terebinth, and I wonder if, although we have said that this does not mean that Rebecca died, could she have brought the message that Rebecca died, for them to have such a mournful event? Because a nurse, or was it more than just the nurse? Did she bring some news with her that has been lost in translation? I don't know. So it doesn't say.
Yes, it does. It says in verse 19, it says, Vatamot Rachel, and Rachel died.
Right. But that's Rachel. That's Rachel.
Yeah.
But
Are you talking about Rivka?
No, Rebecca.
Sorry.
Rebecca. It just doesn't say that Rebecca died. So again,
Yeah. Sorry.
There was a lot of mourning there. I know I jumped back. I meant to say it earlier, but this is something that is another unexplained event that had been discussed. But anyway, I'm sorry I jumped back for a second. Any other discussion about Joseph's coat? Well, at that point, we only have 2 more minutes. I just wanted to mention that, yes, David, you go first.
So why don't you mention that, and then I have a question of Pastor Bruce.
Okay. What I wanted to mention is next week I will not be here. We will be attending on another Zoom session, the B'nai is Mitzvah. My twin cousins are going, one is a boy, one is a girl. They're going to have a bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. And so we are going to participate through Zoom. So Susan and I will not be here next Saturday.
It's okay because there's no Torah study next Saturday.
Perfect.
Perfect. It makes my life so much better.
Next week is the second Saturday of the month, where we have been trying to have a Saturday morning Shabbat service. So that will be next Saturday. Again, it's going to depend on how Rabbi is feeling and his voice and everything. Hopefully he'll be well enough to do it from the temple. If so, it'll be it's going to be just a simple streamed service, nothing elaborate. He doesn't know this yet. I mean, I hope he put one and one together and, came to two, because I'm going to Phoenix. So if I'm not there, we can't do the elaborate service. Meridell is, very capable of doing the simple service, and I would turn it over to her. But as I said, we're going to Phoenix. We're going to stop at Chompy's. And if anybody wants anything, I know, Michael, at the very least, you can put together a grocery list for me, and I'll shop for you.
Okay, thank you. I've got it.
Okay. Because I won't know if my car's full or not, but I will gladly bring home any chopped liver or corned beef or whatever anybody wants.
Okay, David, you've had your hand up.
Thanks so much. I have a question of Pastor Bruce. I'm wondering if you could comment briefly. There's a beautiful piece of artwork right behind you next to your window. And wondering if you could tell us just a little bit about that. I've been looking at that.
Oh, my goodness. I just disappeared. Sorry. Let me see if I can see if you're talking about.
That's
Are you
the one I'm talking about.
Yes.
That's the one?
Yeah.
Yes. It says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's from Psalm 122, I believe it is, in Hebrew and in English. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They shall prosper that love thee. If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her coming. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his habitation. So it's in English and Hebrew, and someone gave that to me and I had it framed.
Beautiful.
Very nice.
It is gorgeous.
This is one of our spare bedrooms and my office. So I have several things in here that are like that.
Bruce.
And then my daughter painted that for me. Hope and faith.
Bruce.
Thanks for the tour.
Sure.
Gail.
Bruce, can you tell me that picture that you showed, the beginning, the first one, where we could locate that online?
I think I'm going to have to unframe it because it was from the back.
Okay.
There's nothing on the front.
Okay.
But you could, if you take a screenshot of it, you'll be able to find it. If everybody wants to take a screenshot of that, can you do that? No, you can't do that because Ruth Ann would have to make me a co-host, and then my thing would have to come up probably. But anyway, I'll look for it, Gail. I'll look for it.
Thanks, Bruce. You can share your screen if you want to, but
let's see if we can do that. Let me see. I'll share screen and put it up there, and you guys can take a picture of it. How's that? Oh, whoops! Try this again. Wait a minute. How do I do that?
You have to click share screen.
Okay, click share screen. It should be at the bottom. It's
okay. Here we go.
Probably in green.
There you go.
Did Did it do it?
No.
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 Ruth
Oh,
Ann, I
sorry.
can help anybody who wants to screenshot it.
Full
Just a second. I have to.
speaker view. Speaker view.
Speaker. See, I've never screen shared before, and I'm trying to figure it out. I press the green button.
If you go to the right and above, it says speaker view, and then you take the entire screen. No, it does. Do you see it in green? It should say share screen.
I've already pressed that.
Okay.
And then what do I press after that? Screen?
Okay, then you have to, well, and you know what the problem is?
Oh, you're not making me a co-host.
No, it's not. It doesn't have to do anything. No, it's because it's not saved on your computer. If you had taken a photo of it, saved it on your computer, then you can do it.
I'll do that.
Tell you what, take a photo, send it to me, and I can send it out to everybody.
I'm sorry
this
to
is
ask.
sorry, this is crazy. I can't even get out of this. There we go. Yeah, I tried to share my screen, but it didn't work. But I will take a picture of it and send it to Ruth Ann. And then you can kind of maybe Google it and see. I'll also look on the back and see if there's something that's a artist, name or something. So.
I'm almost sorry I asked now.
No, that's okay. I have to learn. I don't share screen very often. I've never really done a lot of that, so I wasn't sure what to do exactly.
Okay.
There is a way to screenshot it. Hello.
Yeah.
It's not too difficult. I can maybe guide you through it. Okay, so I'm going to back the train up just a little bit. I'm a bit of a geek. Everybody has a keyboard, I assume. On your keyboard, you're either going to find in a Mac or an iPad, you'll find Apple print screen, or you'll find Control print screen. When the picture is on the screen, you hold down Control and you hit print screen. You must need a Word document or a word processor open. And then you click on your word processing and you Control V or Apple V. Those are keyboard shortcuts for capturing what's on your screen and putting it into a Word document. That might
Right now I'm on my iPad and I can't even open up anything else right now at all.
It'll be just as easy, Bruce, afterwards to just take a picture of it.
Yeah.
We can send it out that way. There's so many different ways of doing it.
Okay, well, everyone, I'm going to be signing out. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom,
and in 2 weeks, we'll pick up the story of Joseph.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Have a healthy
Sue,
yes.
Sue, when you get a chance, could you just give me a call later?
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes.